If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this. Here's what I told Bob. I said, I'm curious, Bob, don't you think messages like this is why Disney keeps having box office flop?
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But who the hell are you to say that? Like, who are you? We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Disney once considered its back catalog a gold mine, so deep the shovels would never hit bedrock. Every remake confirmed the theory. Shake an old fairy tale and coins rained down. So, when the studio announced a live-action Snow White, their first princess reborn for the 21st century, executives treated the green light like a coronation. A $300 million budget followed, convinced they were buying a guaranteed hit. Packed theaters, Spotify-topping ballads, and empty merch shelves by Thanksgiving. No one dared ask, what if the magic doesn't come when we call? Optimism ran high. Scenic engineers transformed a soundstage into a Bavarian forest. Real trees, fiber optic veins in the leaves that pulsed amber when Snow White sang. Antique wedding gowns were torn apart for century-old lace. Lighting techs built mini drones to mimic fireflies. Every department chased spectacle. Every invoice had more zeros. Then came the script. Page after page of empowerment monologues. This Snow White wouldn't just dream of love. She'd dismantle labor exploitation and push forest conservation. Some executives loved it. Others whispered concerns. Pacing, tone, bloat. Still, the script grew. A scene where Snow gives a TED talk to woodland creatures required renting a second motion capture studio. The dwarfs were swapped for digital sprites, forest guardians with bark armor and glass wings. Test renders looked off. Too lifelike to charm, too fake to feel. The VFX team tweaked eyes and fuzz on skin until GPU costs rivaled indie film budgets. A whiteboard tracked electricity spent. 4 Teslas worth of eyelashes today. Then reality struck. A global pandemic shuttered the set. Moss shriveled. Crews returned months later under PCR regimens. Catering ditched buffets for bento boxes. Sword props were sanitized between takes. The budget ballooned. But Disney's mantra never wavered. Princess films don't flop. Rachel Zegler's casting was announced like a victory trumpet. She had Broadway pipes, TikTok pull, and relatability for days. Engagement metrics soared. Teen polls loved her. Magazines dubbed her Disney's new queen. But then, an old clip resurfaced. Zegler quipped that the original romance felt stalkerish. It spread faster than the official trailer.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Well, who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's scenes could get cut? Like, who are you?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
This bizarre fixation with race shifting everything, but only in one direction by Disney, obviously is quite...
She defended herself. She spoke thoughtfully about consent and self-actualization. But nuance doesn't survive on social media. Fans accused her of arrogance. Supporters praised her boldness. Casuals wondered why a bedtime story now sounded like a campus debate. Disney scrambled. Snow White will still be about love, they promised. Just, updated love. Bob Iger jumped on a podcast to praise the film's collaborative evolution. Critics pounced, forums lit up. Disney surrenders to modern agendas. YouTube thumbnails exploded. Iger's face beside headlines like "Woke Snow White Disaster." Millions of views before a teaser even dropped. When it finally did, Disney hoped for a reset. Opening shot. Sunrise over a crystalline mine, Zegler singing a flawless note. But fans zoomed in on CGI forest guardians and a prince who looked more cameo than co-lead. Dislikes surged. Analytics sites crashed. The trailer's ratio rivaled infamous corporate bombs. Marketing pivoted. Bold new vision vanished. Ads now promised an enchanting celebration of timeless hope. B-roll showed practical sets, handmade costumes, old-school embroidery, anything to soothe tradition-loving fans. But the internet had developed a taste for outrage. Sweet wouldn't cut it. Commentary channels kept the uproar simmering. What Disney still doesn't get, week after week. Anonymous DMs told of chaotic rewrites, spiraling deadlines. Internal Slack channels shared memes. One editor posted Snow White holding a flaming balance sheet. Someday my P and L will come. Despite it all, many artists stayed proud. The hand-carved thrones. The orchestral score recorded solo in Royal Albert Hall. The gowns. They believed in the work, even if the world didn't. Opening night arrived in a haze of spectacle. Drone shows drew Apple constellations over Hollywood Boulevard. Zegler arrived in a Swarovski-studded gown that sparkled with sponsor logos. TikTok lives drew millions. But inside the war room, the ticket dashboard told a grim story. Suburban theaters full of empty recliners, small towns logging single-digit sales. By Sunday, the domestic total was $42 million. For a mid-budget drama? Great. For a $300 million Disney tentpole? Catastrophic. Overseas markets crumbled. Local critics panned it as a lecture disguised as a lullaby. The opening weekend failed to match Snow White's 1937 debut, adjusted for inflation. Twitter historians mocked it mercilessly.
I just wanted to go on this little baby rant about Rachel Zegler. She's the young woman that was cast as Snow White, not because she can't keep her mouth shut. I'm totally fine with with the celebrities telling me what their politics are, who they're voting for, etc., etc. We've become accustomed to that. But because she has this underlying anger and hatred in her that always has to take it like one step too far.
Week 2 was worse. A 66% drop. IMAX swapped it for a horror sleeper made on a shoestring. And yet, Zegler, ever defiant, said, "It's an inner journey. She finds her true self." But most audiences didn't follow her there. Disney quietly disposed of unsold sticker books rather than discount them, fearing bad optics. A fast food partner halted its run of Enchanted Forest apple pies, rebranding leftovers under an unrelated promotion. Corporate salvage plans shifted to daytime TV, traditionally a forgiving arena. Ziegler's media prep binder was stacked with safe anecdotes. Singing in the backyard, hugging her first Minnie Mouse, quoting Walt's "if you can dream it" line. We've heard it. We're sick of it. So when Disney keeps doing this, Bob Iger, are you listening? Rachel Zegler, whatever. This backlash is what you're gonna get. Live TV, though, loves chaos. During one appearance, a host asked about toxic monarchy. Zegler launched into a fiery monologue that devoured the next commercial break. Frantic producers signaled a wrap. The segment cut awkwardly to product placement. Within an hour, TikTok DJs were remixing the moment with clown horns. That meme outpaced every official promo that week. Retail fallout escalated. Stores pulled Snow White dolls to clearance aisles. Reports emerged of plush Sprite prototypes being shredded for textile recycling. Disney supply chain managers scrambled to repurpose merchandise, from enchanted Apple lunchboxes to safe, evergreen Mickey tumblers. Theme parks felt the sting too. Months earlier, they'd commissioned a colossal enchanted tree float. But when execs feared it might get booed, they halted construction. It now sits under a dusty tarp backstage, a fallen relic. I told Bob, "Don't you think messages like this are why Disney keeps flopping?" Some think the float might be rebranded for Earth Day. Others joke it'll be scrapped for LED panels. But amid headlines, quieter stories unfolded. Gloria, a seamstress who worked on Snow's fiber optic cloak, watched the film with her grandkids. They cheered when it sparkled. She later said, Art survives storms others don't see. Her quote echoed through craftspeople networks, a reminder that artistry outlasts box office numbers. Still, even artisans felt the scrutiny. A prop carpenter posted a TikTok tour of the dismantled forest set. Sunbeams through foam tree trunks. Moss peeled back like skin. It went viral, half awe, half mourning. Commenters asked, could the wood be donated? Days later, Disney pledged to upcycle it into children's hospital play gardens. A PR win from the ruins. Meanwhile, the 1937 classic surged. Families streamed it during vintage Disney nights with homemade gooseberry pies. Film students praised its rotoscoping over today's uncanny realism. Retro enamel pins sold out. A boutique label pressed a crystal-clear vinyl of the original score. It vanished in hours at $50 a pop. Nostalgia wasn't just resilient, it was ravenous. Inside Disney HQ, post-mortem meetings dragged on. Consultants unveiled decks with titles like Legacy Property Risk Matrix. New rules emerged. No core iconography removed without focus testing. Budgets over $200 million must pass third-party audience audits. Star contracts now include fallback promotional actors. Some producers grumbled. Creativity was being handcuffed. New hires called it a seatbelt after a near-fatal crash. Zegler's career didn't crash, but it took a turn. Studios still wanted her voice, her screen presence. They just built taller PR scaffolds. Future press tours featured co-stars to dilute the spotlight. Zegler studied crisis messaging. She didn't regret speaking her mind, only underestimating the blast radius. Godot, mostly unscathed, grew media-wary. She began personally reviewing every early cut, caption, and interview prompt. Critics called it calculated. Fans called it professional. Either way, it became part of the story. Studios now staff legal teams with social volatility analysts, specialists mapping outrage like meteorologists track storms. Writers' rooms created legacy guardians, tasked with protecting franchises from creative misfires. Directors learned to read meme cycles and parasocial behavior like cultural dialects. Yes, the parks still sparkle. Space Mountain lines still snake. But behind the scenes, sticky notes on storyboards ask, is this moment guided by awe or ego? Does this reference deepen the magic or drown it? Resilience now sprouts in unlikely places. A junior animator's short about a shy garden gnome who sings his courage is fast-tracked. No IP, no billion-dollar pressure. It screens at internal showcases stripped of spreadsheets. There, applause rings louder than hashtags. Executives attend, quietly reminded why Disney soared in the first place. Not by lecturing, but by listening to the small voice of hope in every childhood memory.
As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look.
Meanwhile, the Snow White crew meets in a dim Glendale tavern. They swap stories about animatronics that blinked out of sync or cloaks that sparkled just right. They toast not to success, but to surviving the storm. We built a legend, one sculptor says, even if the legend fell. In film schools, professors loop the trailer alongside charts tracking backlash. They warn students, craft and audience expectation must dance. Miss a beat and no budget can hide the stumble. Yet the film's orchestration still dazzled. Volumetric lighting, LED fabric fusion. Students scribble notes, dreaming of future sets born from today's fallout. Even fandoms evolved. Some early critics of Zegler now admit the backlash turned cruel. Others double down, creating pre-90s Disney preservation movements. Some progressive voices concede the film's messaging felt more like a lecture than a lullaby. The internet rarely loops back, but quiet conversations spark empathy where shouting once ruled. Analysts see a bigger shift. Big IP alone doesn't guarantee turnout. Audiences want novelty, if it honors what came before. Studios are learning, refresh with feather touches, not sledgehammers. Streaming trends prove it. A gentle indie about siblings rebuilding a sailboat climbs the charts. Executives take note. Maybe heartfelt and small doesn't compete with tentpoles, it complements them. And in every way the 2024 Snow White differed from the 1937 original, it was worse. Still, the cracked Snow White mirror hangs in a Burbank hallway. Its silver backing splintered. Its reflection, honest. Interns pause before it. They're reminded. Sometimes when the magic breaks, the truth gets in.